Harm to food chains and food webs. Find and circle the word in the word search grid that has each of the following meanings. Circle each word you find and write the word next to its meaning. Harmful or poisonous. The word you could find in the search grid is toxic. To build up or increase. The word found in the search grid is accumulate. Chemicals used by farmers to get rid of insects and other living things that eat their crops. It's pesticide. The air, land, and water around us is called the environment. A harmful metal in food chains. Mercury. This was the search grid that we used to find the words in. The words have been marked in the search grid. Decide if each of the sentences is true or false. Tick a box to show your answer. Harmful substances can damage living things in food chains. That's true. Harmful substances move through food chains instead of energy. That's false, because the harmful substances move through energy. Harmful substances in food chains cannot affect humans. False, it can affect humans. Some harmful substances in food chain break down in the bodies of the living things. It's true. A factory has dumped a harmful chemical into a river. The drawing shows a food chain in the river and the number of units of harmful chemical X in each living thing. Suggest a way that harmful chemical X entered the food chain. The first way could have been that it was released into the river by a factory or mine. And then the second way could be it washed in from soil runoff from farm land sprayed with pesticides. Which living thing contained the most units of chemical X? The heron. How many times more units are there in the fish than in a pond weed leaf? 60 times more. What do you notice about the amount of chemical X in a living thing and the position of the living thing in the food chain? The quantity of chemical X increases with each link in the food chain. That means the higher the living thing is in the food chain, the greater the quantity of the chemical X it has in it. So if it's a plant, that is, it comes in the first position in a food chain, it has less quantity of the chemical X. But if it's a carnivore, which is the topmost or the last animal that will be consuming the plant, then it will have more amount of chemical X in it. Explain why this is so. Each living thing in the food chain eats more than one kind of living thing below it in the food chain. So a carnivore will be eating the herbivores and different kinds of herbivores. So the greater the number of any kind of living thing eaten, the greater the quantity of chemical is taken in. So if a carnivore is eating two or three herbivores and one more omnivore, then that much amount of chemical it is consuming. This is because the chemical stays in the bodies of the things that are eaten. The chemical was already in the bodies of the omnivores and the herbivores. Here's a short passage. DDT was one of the first and most powerful pesticides developed to kill insects. It was widely used to control the spread of malaria. Mosquitoes spread the malaria parasite when they bite people. DDT was also used a lot in 1960s to spray crops, mostly in Europe and North America. Much later scientists discovered that DDT can move through food chains because animals' bodies cannot get rid of it. DDT is stored mainly in body fat. It also remains in the environment for a very long time before it breaks down. Scientists also found that birds of prey, such as eagles and hawks, which are affected by DDT, lay eggs with very thin shells. Humans who eat plants or animals that contain DDT are more likely to develop cancer and other serious diseases. This is why DDT was banned in 1980s and is no longer used as a pesticide. Why was DDT used a lot in the past? DDT was used to kill mosquitoes that spread malaria. It was used to spray crops to kill insects. Explain how DDT can enter a food chain. If the crops that are the producers are sprayed, it will be covered with DDT. Why can DDT move through food chains? DDT does not break down in the bodies of animals. They cannot get rid of it, or very easily in the environment. So the herbivores that eat the crops will take in the DDT into their bodies, and the DDT will be passed to the carnivores that eat the herbivores in much larger amounts. Suggest two reasons why Arctic animals such as seals and polar bears often have high levels of DDT in their bodies, even though DDT is no longer used. DDT is stored mainly in the body fat, as discussed earlier. Seals and polar bears have lots of body fat to protect them from the cold in the Arctic region. DDT also remains in the environment for a very long time before it's broken down, so it can still be absorbed from the environment. Some people living in Arctic regions eat seals. Why can this be dangerous for them? The seals may have DDT in their bodies. If people eat the seals, the DDT will enter the people's bodies or the humans' bodies where it may cause cancer and other serious diseases. In a food chain affected by DDT, explain why a frog that eats 3 locusts does not die, but an owl that eats 3 frogs dies. What is the word that describes this? The word that describes this process is called accumulation. The frog does not die after eating 3 locusts because the amount of DDT was not enough in the 3 little locusts to kill the frog. But when the owl eats the frogs, at that time the locusts' DDT that was in their bodies plus the frogs' DDT amounts in the bodies accumulated and affected the owl. Why do you think the number of birds of prey in Europe and North America decreased a lot in 1960s? Some birds would have died from eating other animals that contain DDT. The DDT made the birds' eggshells weak, so fewer chicks were hatched. Do some research to find out the full name of DDT. DDT stands for dichloro diphenyl trichloroethane.